All right. Edmund Ted Sexton, retired sheriff of an NSA president from 2005 to 2006, and he's now president of the Law Enforcement Division of Sinceras, will be introducing our featured speaker this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, Sheriff Ted Sexton.
Thank you. On behalf of Circinus, I'm honored to introduce to the National Sheriff's Association our speaker this afternoon. I'm especially proud to be able to introduce Chad Fleming for numerous reasons. He was born in my home county of Tuscaloosa, Alabama. He's a graduate of the University of Alabama. Roll Tide. He and his wife, Treasure, display exceptional character daily in their dedication to family and their 2 children. Chad is a member of Team Circinus. He is proven in combat to be one of the most resilient, tough son of a guns. Chad has been recognized many times for the story he will share with you today that resulted in 23 surgeries and ultimately the loss of his left leg. Despite the wounds he sustained and the loss of his leg, Chad has redeployed 6 more times. The wives of our nation's wounded warriors are not recognized often enough for their support of their loved ones. I would like to take this opportunity to recognize Treasure Fleming. Where is Miss Treasure? She is here. Oh, right there. Treasure, would you please stand up? I'm sorry, I just can't see you but through the lights. I'm sorry. I'd like to recognize Treasure for her patience, perseverance, and dedication to Chad, which I have personally witnessed during his road to recovery, and her support during Chad's continuing service to our country. Last night, I was with Chad and Treasure, and at one point the discussion focused on bringing a new addition to the family. Treasure, I can tell you, Chad has spoken to a gentleman today about the German Shepherd puppy you were requesting, and he will be headed to your care and custody. You definitely won that discussion. I am honored to tell you that I hired Chad as a deputy sheriff with the Tuscaloosa County Sheriff's Office in 1992, where he served until 1998 with distinction. Then he enlisted in the United States Army. Chad was one of many who to this day I continue to credit with the success of the Tuscaloosa County Sheriff's Office during my tenure as sheriff. My wife, Leah Ann, and our sons and I remain close contact with Chad and Treasure and his family. They are actually a part of our family. So now the story begins that you will hear. Chad, after enlisting, graduates from basic training, then achieves his goal of graduating from Ranger School, earning the coveted Ranger tab. Chad is accepted into Officers Candidate School and is ultimately promoted to the rank of captain. Chad sees multiple tours in Afghanistan and Iraq. Many of you have seen the movie or read the book Lone Survivor about Marcus Luttrell and the rescue mission to rescue Marcus that was being held in a village, and those villagers were defending Marcus from the Taliban. The rescue was an intense 12-hour battle. Chad was one of the officers who led this rescue, and from this battle has come a lasting friendship and partnership resulting in the initiation of the Patriots Tour. I have told you Chad is a member of my family. In October 2005, I was president of the National Sheriff's Association. I was in Washington, D.C. on association business when I received a call that Chad had been involved in an engagement and was seriously wounded. Not a pleasant memory, was it? I was told he'd been medevaced to Germany, and because of his wounds, he was expedited to Walter Reed Hospital in Washington, D.C. Chad was to arrive that afternoon, and I went to Walter Reed and found a hospital filled to capacity with wounded and injured soldiers. I checked with medical personnel who asked if I was family. After stating yes, I was told he had arrived and the staff had no idea where he had been assigned a room. I remembered a story that I was told of a volunteer who meets each ambulance who comes to Walter Reed with a milkshake. I found him. His name was Jim Meyer, a double amputee himself from the Vietnam War. I asked Jim about Chad's whereabouts. The milkshake man says, check the maternity ward. He was right. Chad and 2 other soldiers seriously wounded in the same battle were in the maternity ward. Chad still had dirt, soot, and burns on his forehead from the fight of his life. 3 years later, Chad calls me while I was an assistant secretary at the United States Department of Homeland Security. Hey, we need to go to dinner tonight. I need to talk to you. We met. He tells me, I want my normal active life back. I want to amputate my leg. What do you think? I thought for a moment, stunned by the question, and responded, wouldn't you be better off to talk to a couple of our doctor friends back in Tuscaloosa? Chad wanted to run marathons, climb mountains, and return to his fellow Rangers. A week later, Chad had amputated his leg. Many, including Ross Mermelstein of this association, supported and visited Chad. I recall taking Chad and his sergeant, who also had his leg amputated, to a running store to buy shoes in Washington, D.C. I couldn't find a parking spot, so the 2 jump out of my car and tell me they'll call me when they're ready. I come back to pick them back up. I see Chad holding a single box of running shoes. So after jumping back in my car, I ask, do I need to take you all to another store? Chad looks at me with a grin, opens the box of shoes, and says, no, that's a waste of money. I use the left, Sarge uses the right. He rehabbed and requalified and is one of 5 amputees to be recertified to return to active duty within Special Operations Command. Not once, but 6 more tours in battle. Chad has received 3 Purple Hearts, 2 Bronze Stars with Valor, and numerous other medals and citations for his service. Chad continues to this day to serve our country and has deployed an additional 8 times for a total of 14 total combat deployments. It is with honor and pride that I ask you to please welcome Chad Fleming.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, remarks complete. He just told you my whole life story, so I'll see y'all later. Thanks. No, it's an honor to be here. When they called and asked if I would come do this, I said absolutely. As you heard, being a deputy for the sheriff at one point in time, there's no group of individuals that I love any more than fellow law enforcement. One thing I always do before I get started, though, is I like to recognize the fellow veterans in the audience. So if you're a veteran before your law enforcement career, please stand up. Thank you for your service. Thank you. All right, so what are you going to get from me today? All right, you are not going to get me behind this podium. I refuse to. You're the hardcore group. This place was full this morning. It's half full now. So I'm going to keep you awake, keep you happy since you came in here, all right? Fair enough? Here's what you get from me. I am not politically correct. I will not apologize for what I say, all right? If I say it, I mean it from the heart. I'm not going to read off a set of cards or notes from you. Everything you get from me is going to come right here from the heart, all right? Stutters, weird pauses, and everything. But at the end of this talk, what I hope to do is make a connection with somebody that may be having a bad day, may have had a bad day. You may have a bad day in the future. But I hope that I can shed light on what a bad day is and let you know that it happens for a reason, and at the end of the day, you're going to be all right. All right? I wouldn't be standing here today if it weren't for a lot of people in my life, like Ted Sexton, my wife, all right? That one. So, yes, I was born and raised in Alabama. I now live in Texas. Why? Because I married a Texas woman, all right? She said, matter of fact, she left me twice to go back to Texas to have both children. She said, I will not have a child that does not have a Texas birth certificate, all right? That's what I live with every day, all right? Second time, it was a note on the refrigerator said, Be at Texas this time, this day. Don't be late. Roger that. Got it. So my life wasn't always like this. I wasn't always the person that I am today. I can promise you that. When I first applied at the Tuscaloosa County Sheriff's Office, Ted did not hire me. Why? Because I had a series of speeding tickets, all right? And he had just had a bunch of deputies that had some wrecks. He's like, guess what, bud? Not now. I didn't give up. I just kept working, waited till those things dropped off and said, okay, I think I'm a little more mature now. Can we try again? And luckily, he said yes. And that's kind of what started me getting on the right track in my life. And even though I've had a lot of hardships, one thing I never did was I never quit and I never gave up. It's one of the things that I preach to our two children now, is to never quit and to never give up. So everybody always wants to know, hey, we want to know a little bit of the story about how you actually, what cost you your leg. And so I'm going to take you through that journey, and then I'll give you the Cliff Note version, don't worry. And then I'm going to tie all that in to how I fit on this stage in front of you all today. Because everybody in here has a special place back home, within your families, within your departments. And believe it or not, there's a lot of people that look up to you. And you'll see at the end here how I kind of tie all that together. So as he said, I graduated college. I was still in my deputy's uniform. I went into the recruiter and I said, hey, I want to be an airborne ranger. And he laughed and he's like, well, okay, you got a college degree. I'll put you in as an officer. I said, nope, I want to go in enlisted. He said, okay, well, why? I said, because I want to do everything that I'm going to ask someone else to do at a later point in time. If I decide I want to go be an officer, I'll do that down the road. Right now, I want to enlist. He said, all right, fine. He goes, you're not the smartest one around. He goes, you know you're going to take about a half pay cut, right? I said, it doesn't matter. I came from a long lineage of military service to this nation. My grandfather was in World War II. My father was in Vietnam. And it's something that I always wanted to do. I realized I wasn't getting any younger, and I actually went and talked to the sheriff and said, hey, this is what I'm going to go do. And he said, I support you 110%. Let me know how I can help. So I go. This was obviously before the global war on terrorism. So as my fellow veterans in here know, the military can be a very boring place, all right? You will scratch your head many a days going, why did I sign up for this? Everything from buffing concrete floors to cutting grass with scissors, all right? And I had a lot of that because I came from the known. The known was, hey, I was a deputy and I had a good life and I enjoyed what I was doing. And now this sucks. And so I questioned myself a lot as to whether or not I'd made the right decision. And then obviously the war kicks off. Now you're taking all the training that you've had and you're now having to implement that training to not only save your life, but save the lives of everyone that's around you. And hope that you come out, one, alive, and two, maybe with all your appendages. And so things get very real, very quick. Went over the first 3 to 4 deployments, no issues. Been in a lot of hairy situations, not a problem. Came out, almost had a sense of invincibility. Bad thing to have, especially when you're deploying. Go back over, 18 hours away from coming home. All right, my guys were actually supposed to be on an airplane, but instead, they called and said, hey, you're going to wait for the next airplane, so you'll be about 18 hours late before you guys get an opportunity to go home. During that 18 hours, back then, everybody in here remembers when we had pagers before the cell phones, all right? We had pagers over there. As I can remember, I was in the gym, pager goes off, and I'm like, there must be a mistake. Why am I getting paged? So I go to the Tactical Operations Center, walk in, said, hey, somebody made a mistake. My pager just went off. And the colonel said, nope. He said, get your guys, you're going out. The number 2 bad guy in Iraq is up here in Mosul in the northern part, and your guys are going to get him. And I begged and I pleaded with him. I said, hey, sir, we're leaving soon. Most all of our gear's packed. The other guys are already here to relieve us. Let them go. He said, no. He said, you guys know the area better than anybody else. You're the ones that are going. I begged and pleaded as long as I could until you know what happens. The colonel just tells you to shut up, move out. That's exactly what we did. It's about 127 degrees that day, middle of the day. Obviously not the most advantageous time for us to do an operation. The idea was, and this is something that I'm going to expound on here in just a little bit, technology, all right? Technology was the new thing at that point in time in 2005. They wanted to do, and here's the problem, the command did not really know how that technology could be implemented or actually how the technology worked. And what they were trying to get us to do doesn't work, and it didn't work. And so the idea is that they knew he was going to cross one of the bridges in northern Iraq. They sent us out there in order to cordon off the bridge and wait and see if this guy came through, and we would electronically lock this guy up, shut the bridge down, and then you're going to move a bunch of gunfighters towards each other to get this guy. And I'm scratching my head and I'm going, he ain't the smartest guy from Alabama, but I don't know if I want to be walking towards my other buddies with guns and the bad guys in the middle. This isn't very smart. But we went out and did it. We were about 30 minutes away from being out of fuel. I had called back and said, hey, 30 minutes, we got an RTB, we got to return to base. They said, make one more pass, see if you can get this guy. If you can't get him, we'll bring you home. That one more pass would end up eventually costing me a leg. At this point in time, we had been out for about 3 hours trying to find this guy. The bad guys aren't stupid. They figured out where we were and what we were doing. Unbeknownst to us, they had set up an ambush. We actually drove right into the ambush. We came down off an exit ramp, went underneath the bridge, and when we did, an Iraqi taxi stopped in front of the lead vehicle. I don't know if that driver was complacent that day. I never even really talked to him about it. His training told him he should have rammed that vehicle and continued to drive. But what he did instead was he actually hit the brakes. And when he hit the brakes, it left my vehicle exposed underneath the overpass. Bad guys jumped up on the overpass, began shooting RPGs, AK-47s, and throwing hand grenades off the top of the bridge. 2 hand grenades land inside of my vehicle and detonate about that far from where I was sitting in the vehicle. All right? Inside the vehicle, there was a halon bottle. That halon bottle is designed to suck all the oxygen out in case there's a spark or a flame so a fire doesn't burn you inside the vehicle. The halon bottle's now gone off. There's no oxygen to breathe inside the vehicle. All right? So 2 grenades have gone off. I don't know how bad the rest of the guys are hurt, and it's hard to breathe. Fight or flight kicks in. We've decided that day we were going to fight. We ended up making our way outside of the vehicle right into the middle of a hellacious ambush. That's the only way to describe it. They had the high ground, and we were down below them. I can remember being in a gunfight for a few minutes and starting to pass out. The gunfight was so intense that the doc couldn't get to me, so I ended up having to put a tourniquet on myself. That's how bad it was, and once I realized exactly how bad I'd been hurt. Get a tourniquet on, take my M4 rifle, end up using it as a cane or a crutch, pull my pistol out and continue to engage the enemy until I completely passed out. The next thing I remember is waking up, being rolled into the combat hospital. I already told you it was 127 degrees, 2005. All right? Under Armour had just come out with this brand new underwear, right? The men's breathable underwear. Much better than cotton, because in the desert you didn't even wear cotton. You just went commando, all right? It's too hot. So I had emailed my dad, and I was like, hey, Dad, Under Armour just came out with some new underwear. Can you grab me a couple pairs and send them out here? His email response was, hey, son, those things cost $39.95, ain't happening. I'm like, look, cheapskate, I'll pay you back when I get home. Just send me some. I need them, all right? He sends me one pair. So the guys said that I was out of it. They're rolling me into the hospital. And they were like, hey, sir, the first thing we remember is nurse comes running up, starts coming up those pant legs with those shears. And you popped up off the gurney and you were like, hey, whatever you do, don't cut my drawers. They cost $40. And then I passed back out. And as you can see, that's why I'm adorned in Under Armour now. I am actually, those underwear actually hang on the headquarters wall at Under Armour in Baltimore. They have holes all in them. Yes, I washed them, all right? They're not standing on their own. And I'm actually the spokesperson for UA Freedom, for Under Armour's Veterans Initiative. So, that's when my life really started taking a downturn. That's when I started feeling sorry for myself. I started going, why me? What's going to be next? Here's a very active person that had always succeeded at whatever they tried physically, and what am I going to do? So, as the sheriff said, they package me up, they get ready to start sending me home. All right? They'll fly from Iraq. You would fly into Balad. Balad, they would stabilize you real quick, get you out to Landstuhl, and then eventually try to get you back to Walter Reed. Of the fellow veterans in here, who's in the Air Force? Raise that hand high. These are the smartest people in the room, all right? I'm telling you, if you got kids, grandkids, friends' kids, they decide they want to go in the military, tell them to join the Air Force, all right? They get paid better. If they have to live on somebody else's base, they get substandard housing allowance because your base ain't nice enough for the Air Force, all right? So here we come in a jet, in a C-130 coming into Balad. I look out, and I'm like, see this huge tent. Looks like the Taj Mahal. I'm like, well, the Air Force must be here. Sure enough, roll up in that tent. It's -5 degrees up in there, all right? They got an air conditioner for every 3.5 feet. Everybody else been sweating like a hostage all day long, all right? There's people in there wearing polar fleece, Air Force people. And man, I'm mad. I'm mad at this point. I'm sitting there all frowned up. I'd already cussed out about 3 people coming in. And all of a sudden, and let me caveat this was before I was married to my lovely wife. I look up, and it's like a mirage. I see this beautiful Air Force nurse headed my way. So I'm like, fix myself up a little bit. She walks up, and she says, how are you doing? I said, I'm doing a whole lot better now. How are you? She said, she said, when's the last time you had a bath? I said, it's been a long time. She goes, you need a sponge bath. I said, yes, I do. And so now I'm sitting here grinning from ear to ear, waiting on this hot nurse to come give me a sponge bath. This guy walks by and he goes, man, what's up with you? He goes, you cussed me out coming through the door and 2 of my buddies, and now you're sitting here grinning from ear to ear. I said, man, I'm about to get a sponge bath. He goes, yes, you are. My name's John. I'm here to give it to you. I said, no, John. I said, don't ask, don't tell, John. I'll go all the way to Walter Reed smelling bad, dude. Leave me alone. Go away. So I got there. They continued to do surgeries. I'd get better. I'd go to therapy. They'd call me back and say, we need to do another surgery. All right? You heard that I finally made the decision. I had no quality of life. I said, hey, I want my leg cut off. I want to be able to go back, do what I was trained to do, be with my guys, and the only way that's going to happen is for you to cut my leg off. All right? They didn't want to do that because back then they didn't have the statistics to support whether or not that was the right idea. At that point in time, the orthopedic doctors thought, hey, if you can get around, no matter how mangled you are, if you can get around on your God-given leg, it's better than a prosthetic. And I'm here to prove that that's not true, right? This leg that I got on today has been overseas probably at least 8 times, maybe 10 times. It's the exact leg that I've got on today, all right? It doesn't slow me down. It did right after the surgery because I had some setbacks, all right? I went back into that black hole again. And I had to start figuring out my life. And I got real bitter. I got real angry, right? When I went back and said I wanted to deploy, they started putting hurdles in front of me. They said, yeah, we don't know that we want to let you go because we don't know if you can do the job. We don't know if you will be able to keep up with the other guys. I said, okay, so what do we have to do? So they said, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put together a qualification course, and you're going to do this with able-bodied guys, and we're going to see how you and 2 other amputees do, and we'll make a decision after that. And the result of that was we trained. We were not going to go in there and fail. And we ended up outperforming 68% of the able-bodied guys that did the same course that we did. And then we were kind of like, what now? What's your excuse? And they didn't have one. So they had to let us go. So you can imagine now I've gone from being fairly bitter to pretty arrogant, all right? Type A personality anyway. Now I'm kind of like, you guys got all your appendages. I got only half of mine, and I can outperform most of you. So I lost that sense of humility. And that's one of the things that I wanted to talk to you all about today, is humility. We all tend to do that. We all tend to think that we're the greatest thing around, all right? If you tell me that you don't at some point in life, I'll tell you that you're lying. We all do it. The point is whether or not we can check ourselves and say, hey, guess what? We're not. We have to be humble. There's nothing wrong with being hungry and humble, but you got to remember your humility. And when I lost mine, what got me in check was a huge life lesson. I'd gotten a brand new lieutenant, came to me. We were getting ready to deploy, all right? So here's the detachment commander as an amputee that you can't really tell a whole lot, because guess what? I'm the commander, and this new guy rolls in. He was my fire support officer. So he controlled all the aircraft in the air when we were on the ground. And he is a very, very, very important person when things go wrong. You need that guy. I didn't give him the time of day. It's like, hey, bud, welcome. You're going to get some OJT, and we're leaving in about 2 weeks. Make sure you got your gear packed. We get over there. We've been on the ground about 3 days. Mission comes, a mission comes down. I look at where we're going, and I'm like, man, been there. It's a bad place. And I told the guys, I said, hey, from the minute the helicopters land, we will be in a gunfight within 10 minutes all the way to the target, guaranteed. And within about 7 minutes of the helicopters landing, we were in a gunfight for about 45 minutes until we got to the target. When we got to the target, all hell broke loose. We finally made our way into a building, and hard-pointed took over that building. And his job was to get up to the roof. He could control all the aircraft. He could see them. He needed to do everything. His communications worked best when he was at high ground, and the place for him to be was up on top of that roof. Bad gunfight going on. Me being me, I decided, you know what? I'm going to go up there and see if I can get a charge out of this fella. So I go running up the stairs. I come sliding in next to him. I'm like, hey, Ed, do you think we're going to make it out alive? And he looked at me, never broke a smile. He said, yep, we're good. And I was like, you seem pretty confident. I said, there's guys out here that have been with me for a couple years, and they're pretty flustered right now. What gives? He goes, well, if you'd have taken the time when I showed up to find out who I was and to ask a few questions about me, he goes, I would have told you that I'm Billy Graham's grandson. And I called my granddad before we left, and Billy Graham says we're going to be just fine. And I was like, Edward Graham. I was like, you're Billy Graham's grandson. And he smiled, and he looks just like Franklin Graham, just as tall, same build, everything. And he smiled, and he goes, I am. And I said, listen here, from now on, you're no longer to be any further than 2 feet away from me. You understand? I need to be able to grab you because your grandfather has a red line to God, and he's going to take care of all of us. Don't leave me, Ed. That was my lesson in humility, all right? Here I am rolling around Iraq with Billy Graham's grandson, you know? And I was like, man, you know, had I just taken a little bit of time, asked this guy who he was, where he's from, just being a human, being a good human being, I would have found out a lot of information about him. And we tend to forget about that. We all do it. We get inundated with our own lives, and we forget about those that are around us. Law enforcement, military, sports. All right, I talk to a lot of sports teams. I'm like, hey, your statistics are great. How'd you get them? Every once in a while, one of the guys will pop off, and he'll be like, man, I've been training hard in the off season, and, you know, I'm just good at what I do. And I'm like, no, you're not. And they'll look at you because pro athletes don't want to be talked to that way. And I'm like, no, you're not that good. And they look at you. I'm like, you're good because the person to your right and to your left does their job. The minute one of those people don't do their job, you don't get statistics, which doesn't make you good, which doesn't get you your next contract. And that's the same for everything in life. We forget about the people to our right and our left. And, you know, a lot of times we don't stop because we're so busy in our own lives. We don't stop and ask those people what's going on in their lives. It's much easier for us just to judge them and put a label on them. Go, hey man, this guy's lazy. I don't want to work with this person, all right? Whatever the reason is. Instead, if we just took that extra minute and stopped and said, hey, you don't look like you're yourself today. What's going on? You may find out something very important. You may find out that person's going through a divorce. They may have someone in their family that's terminally ill. You feel pretty bad once you find that out and you've already made your own determination of what kind of person they are. So that's what I'm telling you. Take that extra moment, find out who it is, because we can't get to the mission success unless we have everybody. And that everybody is the people to our right and to our left. So as I continue to move on in my career, I started making my own goals, right? I wanted to run a marathon, all right? I don't suggest running a marathon with 2 legs, much less 1, all right? I will not ever run another one. I ran the New York City Marathon in 2009, and it won't happen again, I can guarantee you, all right? And that was me. I just started pushing for goals. And I started to achieve those goals. And I started realizing that I could have an impact on other people's lives. Because you heard me earlier tell you, everything happens for a reason, all right? I was that person that sat around for a long time going, why me? Why couldn't it have been one of the other guys? Now I'm the one that's dealing with this. Well, for me, the what if was finding my wife, all right? I didn't know it at the time because I was too busy feeling sorry for myself. I was too busy asking myself why. To realize that everything happens for a reason. Because had this not happened, because by the way, they make all my legs in San Antonio, Texas, at the Center for the Intrepid. That's how I met her, San Antonio, Texas, all right? She absolutely hated me the first time she met me, but I grew on her, all right? All right? I tricked her. We had a couple beers, and then I pulled the old handicap card. I'm like, I can't get to the car. Can you help me? Just pull her in a little bit closer and just limp to the car. It works every time, I'm telling you, all right? It does. But everything happens for a reason, all right? That was a reason. I now have 2 beautiful kids. I have a great life, a great family, great friends. I get to spend time with people, the caliber of people that I want to spend time with. Folks such as yourselves, patriotic Americans, all right? People that want to do the right thing, want to make the place better for everybody, not just a certain group, but for everybody. And so a lot of times people come up to me and they say, hey man, you know, especially if I'm in shorts. The reason I wear shorts when I speak most of the time is so that you can, there's several people in our group that didn't even know I was an amputee until about an hour ago. If I got on long pants, most of the time people don't know that I'm missing a leg. But I like for people when I'm talking to see that just because you have a bad day doesn't mean you can't recover and move on in life. But people will come up and they'll say, hey man, you know, thanks for your service. I'm sorry for your loss. I'm like, why are you sorry for my loss? Well, you know, you're missing a leg. I'm like, don't be sorry for me. I'm like, life is great. I'm like, I had nothing to complain about. The minute that I think that my life is bad, I can go to any children's hospital. I can go, because I still have law enforcement credentials, I can go ride along with any one of y'all and get in a car and realize real quick there's a lot of people that have a lot worse off than I do. So why should I feel sorry for myself? Why should somebody feel bad for me because I lost a leg? Don't, all right? It's great. Whenever I buy a pair of socks, it's buy one, get one free, all right? It don't matter if you got a sale or not, buy one, get one free. I only got one foot that gets a blister, all right? I got some chigger bites because I was out in the woods in Texas earlier. Not on this leg. I only got to scratch one, all right? Life's not bad. Life's not bad. But to roll all this kind of in something that you can relate to, because obviously throughout the convention, you have little meetings on everything that's going on in the law enforcement world and where you should be looking and what's happening in the future. I'm going to talk to you real quick about what's happening in the future. It's technology, all right? The reason that I'm at Circinus right now is because I'm the subject matter expert on a piece of technology that is proprietary to Circinus and will change the lives and the way change the lives of the people that you live around, and it'll change the way you do business in law enforcement, right? We've been using the technology since 2004. There are two key players in the United States that make this piece of equipment, right? They are now pushing themselves back into the classified realm. Why? That's where the money is, all right? DOD, federal government, that's who has the big checkbook. What we've done is we've created a better mousetrap. And this technology, I'm telling you, will change a lot of things and a lot of ways that you do business, right? So when they brought me in as a subject matter expert, they said, hey, you could be doing a lot of stuff. Why'd you come here? I said, because it's a way for me to give back. It's a way for me to give back to the people that I originally started with on this 25-year journey of carrying a firearm for a living. And so if I can give something back that'll either make you able to go home at night and see your families, or keep you safe, keep you from having a prosthetic leg or getting shot, then by God, that's what I'm going to do. And technology isn't going anywhere. You all know, you've all been to most of these meetings around here, everybody keeps preaching technology, technology, technology. It isn't slowing down, all right? What we can do overseas right now would absolutely amaze you. You get more information on TV than I think you should get, all right? But it's amazing what we can do. And you got to stay open-minded about it, all right? And trust me, I was not originally the open-minded technological guy, and I am still not. My wife will tell you I'm an idiot when it comes to a computer, all right? I fought all my commanders because they wanted me to do PowerPoints, and I'm like, nope, I learned on this butcher block. That's what we called it, butcher block, big white sheet of paper. I can draw you a mission plan right here, and I don't need that PowerPoint. And they would get mad at me and say, you're going to do a PowerPoint. And I'd be a smart ass and go, what happens when we don't have power, sir? You know, and of course, then I'd get chewed out and whatever else. But didn't work out too well for me. I ended up learning how to do PowerPoints. But the point of the matter is, stay open-minded, all right? Stay open-minded and listen to the people around you. I got to a point where I didn't do that either. And then I learned the hard way one day. I pretty much labeled somebody as incompetent. And somebody told me, a mentor told me, he said, hey, you want to surprise yourself? Next time you get a mission, open the planning up to everybody. You'll be amazed. You'll literally be astounded at what they come up with. And what you're doing is you're letting them become part of the mission. You're letting them have say-so. You're letting them be successful, or if the mission's unsuccessful, guess what? They're learning a lesson there too. And I surprised myself. The guys came up with some stuff I hadn't even thought of, and it was absolutely amazing. Mission went off without a flaw, and I learned a lesson that, hey, I may not be the smartest guy in the room. And I only tell you this because I want to have an impact in somebody's life today. I don't know any of you. Well, I know some of you. But I love every one of you. I wouldn't have continued to go overseas if I didn't have love for my country, love for everybody in this country, for what we stand for the liberties and the freedoms that we have, to be able to come here, sit in here and do this, all right? Law enforcement, for you to protect this place so I can come here and feel safe, all right? First time I hadn't carried a gun in a little while. Didn't think I needed one coming here. But if anything happens, I promise you I'll go toe-to-toe with him. I can say that, right? I only got 5 toes, but I'll go 5 toes with you at least, all right? I'm not going to let anybody come in here and get us. But in closing, it's been an honor, all right? It has truly been an honor for me to come here and spend time with you all today. Been here the last 3 days, met a good bit of you, great people, great Americans. Can't thank you enough for what you do, not only for yourselves, but your communities in this country. And at the end of the day, I can promise you beyond a shadow of a doubt, we live in the greatest country in the world. So many people tend to forget that, right? But I think it's on the right path. I think it's going down the right road, and I think it can only get better from here. And so, got to drop a little plug here. Tomorrow night, Sir Sinis is hosting a dinner, all right? Steak, salmon, any of that stuff. You're welcome to come. It's easy to sign up. Go to room Delta 6, D6, walk in, sign up, and come join us. We'll be there. If you're interested in any of the technology I've mentioned, I'll be glad to chat with you about it. If you want more war stories, I'll give you more war stories. We'll pull out cigars and alcohol, and we'll sit there until whenever you want, all right? And if I can, and I truly mean this, and the sheriff will tell you, if I can ever do anything to help you all, somebody knows how to find me. If you can't find me, Google me, all right? I'm sure I'm in the white pages on Google. It's probably got my address there too, all right? But if I can ever help you, please don't hesitate. I've been there. I know what it's like. You guys have a stressful job. It infuriates me when I turn the television on now and I see people taking shots at law enforcement, injuring law enforcement because they're so stupid not to realize that you're out there trying to make the whole world better. It infuriates me. So if I can ever help you, please don't hesitate to let me know. Thank you all. You guys have a great day. We'll see you soon. Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Chad, thank you very much. That was truly inspiring. We'd like to present you with a gift from the NSA on behalf of the 3,088 Sheriffs of America, and we hope you treasure that and store it in a prominent place.
That is awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
For your
Appreciate
service.
it. Thank you.
For coming to see us.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you.